If you're watching this right now, there is a good chance that you are lawful good. And if you're not that, then you're probably neutral good, or lawful neutral. Okay, we need to talk about this weird alignment thing. Hey everyone, welcome to Dungeon Bits. And in case you don't know, alignment is this incredibly weird thing that is completely unique to D&D. And Finn from Adventure Time. And I say incredibly weird because in no other game does it ask you to choose your class, race, and where you sit on this tic-tac-toe board. People in the hobby typically know what alignment is. But if you don't, alignment asks, where do you sit on an axis consisting of law to chaos on one side, then good to evil on the other? And then you'd combine the two parts like, oh, I'm lawful good or chaotic neutral. And this tiny little facet of the table has produced so many arguments online. People like to argue over the alignment of different fictional characters, and depending on how you're treated at the table, it has produced so much annoyance and strife. But despite that, the monsters and PCs still use alignment in 2024. But why? Why do we still use alignment? Well, why did we use it in the first place? Why do we still use it? There must be some reason it still exists, right? Well, it can be useful for those that are new to TTRPGs, and as strange as it sounds, the ideas of a person's psyche. Because there are a bunch of people who struggle to answer the questions about their own character's moral compass, and really struggle to differentiate their own decision making from that of their characters, which is what role-playing is. On paper, it helps newbies that are new to role-playing games to have only 9 personalities to play as, rather than having to make a character's brain from scratch. However, I've seen the complete opposite happen. Newbies being baffled by these 9 objective ways to define a person, and what minor differences separate them from something so intangible and subjective as good and evil and values in general. People are complicated. People are so complicated that you might think that you know someone through and through, only to find out that they like feeding stray cats other liquidized stray cats. I guess it never came up in conversation. So, as for how helpful it is in roleplay, is not a definite answer, since other games manage absolutely fine. However, I saw someone asking recently, does alignment work in D&D today? And the answer to that is not simple because, well, we kind of need it if you're playing D&D, because there are other worlds that embody different alignments arranged in a ring, and their order in the ring depends on the axis of law and chaos and good and evil, such as having the world of limbo and the chaotic neutral side of the ring, and you might get to go to these worlds when you die. Also, magic items like the Deck of Many Things can flip your alignment with the draw of a card. Also, there's the Candle of Invocation, or those 2 tomes of evil and good which turn you inside out and tickle your intestines if you don't fit their specific alignment. So there we are. Alignment, despite how good or bad it is for your tastes, has a place in D&D because it gives your personality and values a mechanical presence. But nowhere near as much in these later editions. Like 5e and 1D&D still have alignment despite its very minute presence. In earlier editions, your alignment would be pivotal in deciding what spells you cast. Like, are you a cleric? Okay. What alignment are you? Because whether you're healing or hurting depends on whether you snuggle puppies or smother puppies. So, does it fit modern play? Well, no. And yes, because there are some instances where it matters in the new editions, but not in any way that goes beyond it remaining optional. Like, you don't have to pick up those alignment-based books, but you would be hard-locked out of certain abilities in the earlier editions. It's very open but flimsy now, and it was limiting, yet good for storytelling in earlier editions. But isn't it crazy that the game has moved forward with ideas of nurture versus nature by removing ability score improvements from races and then calling the races species, which all represents the game moving forwards with modern ideas of characters that you play being people, who can be as different as you and I can. But that's just for the players, because if you look at stat blocks, you'll see that the creatures you fight have alignments. This may sound easy to grasp. We want the things that we fight to be evil, so we, the bad guys, can feel good about beating them, but actually, here's something that happened in a recent game of mine. You know the Flump, this adorable nightmare that looks like the mutant offspring between a jellyfish and a pug? It's lawful good, and then here, these guys, the Drow, they're neutral evil. Wait, like all of them? So they're born evil? Or are you saying that the drow in their society are evil? So what if you find a drow mage in Waterdeep? Are they automatically evil? Race/species has been reworked, so that species isn't tied to its ability scores, but when you play one, you're never tied to an alignment. Anyone can be anything. I mean, you might have seen how people have softened the sharp edges around orcs in the new editions, but yet, the versions we fight in the books are evil. The flump and the drow thing is relevant, by the way, because I had my players encounter a flump who wanted to guide them through the Underdark. Except it turns out it was a beholder in disguise, which are evil creatures. Subversion of expectations deployed, roll initiative. They came across drow. Except the drow didn't worship Lolth, and they weren't violent. They welcomed newcomers in, saying that they were under new management. But before these twists were revealed, one player fought for the case that the flump could 100% be trusted because he was using metagame knowledge that flumps are lawful good. And another player knew that the drow were evil in the books, and knew about their spider god, and said, even though they'd seen this subversion as to what drow are normally like, they still said, drow are evil. It's in the books. And here's the thing. It's fun for the GM to give the players objectively evil bad guys. Defeating them feels satisfying. But it can be limiting to storytelling and the complexity of characters if the fictional beings as a whole are assigned a fixed standard of whether it's okay or not to kill them. It sounds spooky in more realistic scenarios. And you might say, well, you said it yourself, subversion of expectations. The flump wasn't a flump and the drow were nothing like the ones in the monster manual. Therefore, flumps are still good and drow are just evil. Well, without engaging in the discussion of whether or not that statement is true, do you see the issue that alignment can create? You can metagame yourself into a hole by not relying on the evidence of what the creature has done, but what their alignment says they will always do. And it goes a step further. Have you ever had an argument at your table over what characters would do because of their alignment? Because it has two sides. People who follow their alignment too strictly, and people who very much don't. Let's be honest, we've all heard horror stories about paladins, a class that always seems to attract a certain kind of player, and their stubborn adherence to their oath. Lawful stupid. Follow the oath without wavering. That's what a paladin is, right? Okay. What about if it means you have to be an a-hole to your friends and then justify it by saying, sorry, I'm lawful good? There's been plenty of occasions where alignment has been this safety net for bad behaviour. Like, for some reason, people constantly pick chaotic neutral to justify them being plainly annoying and antagonistic at the table. The sentence, I'm so chaotic lol, has been burned into my brain, mainly because it's said by people who really aren't chaotic. In fact, they're typically exceptionally boring people who find anything above white bread thoroughly exciting, and because they love H.P. Lovecraft and have lots of dice, they're automatically too chaotic for you to deal with. Rant over. But the same thing happens in character creation, where people will be like, whoa, my character is so chaotic like me, but then they're really normal. And more to the point, they have strict values, do good things and object to bad things. Like a lawful good person. Then there are those that play in normal heroic campaigns and pick evil as their alignment while everyone else is good. And then one of two things happen. They just don't do bad things, and even object to other people doing bad things, especially when it's done to them. So why were you gloating that your character was so cool because they're evil? Or their character changes and grows. For me personally, alignment is the last thing I think about when making a character or an NPC, and I never ask a player what their alignment is when they make a character. And you can do that. Just because you're playing D&D, it doesn't mean you have to use alignment. But if you insist on using alignment, then the best tip I can give you is to assign yourself whatever alignment is most fitting to you based on your actions, and not to base all your actions on the alignment to the point where it becomes painful for all. If you keep following your alignment to the bitterest end, then your character can never change. They'd be an unmoving and unchanging, plinth of principle who experiences no internal doubt or interest in conflict. So, make sure you're not enslaved to your alignment. Thank you for watching. I'm Ellis, and if you like this video, click the one on screen to see my design on how to create epic boss fights based on the bad guys' hit points, no matter their alignment. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.